Well, I do have a
It's a
great
3M.
mask.
He's covered.
Yeah.
Greg, what's the status of
He's made good progress this week. So I think hopefully he'll be ready to go. He's got through a good portion of work today. We'll reevaluate on the last day tomorrow, but he's made good progress. It was more in the low grades, very low grades, and so it's we'll see again as he's able to hit top speeds. He's got that's the last thing, is hitting the necessary speed to feel like he's safe to get going. So tomorrow we'll make assessments on that.
You're balancing that with, you need a result, but you also get likely a week off before you start. So how do you sort of balance that with him?
There'll be certainly a risk reward, and depending on if he's ready in the play, then there might be a minute load that we keep him in one way or another, whether that's at the end or at the beginning. But see what kind of the medical side feels like and sports science side feels like in terms of safety. So we're sure keeping track of that on everybody. So, and there's some guys, like Marco, who's ready to go. We want to get him in the flow and the rhythm of things because he's missed a couple weeks now. So it's important that he gets some appropriate minutes. But we try to keep all of the guys in a safe space while we're still trying to win the game or get their necessary result.
How back is Ade?
He's good. He's 100%. I think for Julian, as a little bit as a younger player, being off so long, it's trying to establish again a rhythm on the field, his priorities out there. One of the things I would say is when he was playing left back earlier in the season, we were trying to ask him to be a little more aggressive about some of his attacking positions. As the season's progressed and certain things arise, we've not used the left side as so aggressive in some of the attacking roles. So again, priorities in the moment and just getting him into the rhythm within the group and stuff like that. It's just playing now, but he's healthy-wise, he feels great.
Nelson's done a great job for you. So in determining who to use between that, what goes into that decision?
Yeah, I think form is a big part of it. We're at the time of the year when results are really what it's about, and so form, maybe what we're expecting out of our left side. John is a touch more conservative, I would say, and mindful of his defensive positioning and reading, and has a bit of a defensive mind first, a little less aggressive, whereas Julian's quite aggressive. He's looking to get involved in attacks and get up and down the line, and so I think it's between them. We're going to need them both. So it's going to be getting Julian again to where he's feeling comfortable, confident, and in the rhythm, and keeping John in form, and then we make decisions as we feel the game is, whether it's the start or changing during the game as the game sets up.
Houston's a team that likes to have the ball, and
sure.
a team that's efficient with it, and
sure.
also has some dynamic players.
Yeah.
Does that lead to a more conservative approach, given that you probably need a point?
Yeah, in terms of approach, I think with them, they are, as you said, they're very, very good in possession. Their positional play is very sound. Their movements off of each other and their awareness of each other is very good. They're very efficient with the ball. There's not too much overplaying things. Where I think they haven't hit their full stride this year, and hopefully it's not tomorrow or Saturday and others, is kind of that change of tempo from possession to now finishing action, or the transition moment where they recover the ball and they can hurt you really in the transition. Those are the things where I feel like they've had so much with the ball but probably hasn't translated into as many goals as they would like. That's something, though, we have to be efficient about how we defend. You could spend a lot of energy trying to get the ball off of them. You could get pulled around the field and exposed if you're getting pulled around doing too many things. So I think this is a game where I think, probably in a good case scenario, it's 50-50 with the ball for us. Maybe where it's their place and they're going to have a little more than 50-50. We've got to be steady about how we defend, and we've got to be smart about using the ball to defend for ourselves as well. And so choosing when to go fast and when we see the opportunity to break and try to score, and when to use the ball efficiently in possession to also decrease the amount of defending time that we're going to have to do against them is going to be really important, especially on the road against a team who's good with the ball and a place that's not the easiest in the world to play at. So it'll be good. It's a nice test for us. I think it's great that the game is meaningful. At this time of year, I feel like it's I would rather have a meaningful game that we're playing for something than the game that where you feel like you're not playing for something right before you start really playing for something. So I think that keeps the right intensity and the right tension in the group that, win, lose, or draw, hopefully draw or win, it keeps the right tension going into the playoffs.
As you look back, how last year ended, first day of camp this season, what was the message to the guys?
I think it was process, coming off of a year last year that had so many challenges. The first was, guys, you're never going to encounter a season that had that many challenges. You're just not. Like, it was unique, and I've been in this league now for 28, whatever the years are around it. You're never going to see a year that had that many challenges. So let's leave that behind us. And now it's just a process of growing this group together, maturing together, the new pieces that we brought in, how they're going to complement one another, because we knew on paper that they would. And then let's just stick to the process of trying to get better each and every day, and with every game trying to take a step forward and understanding who we are and how we're going to be successful for the moments that are in front of us right now. Because you got to be a mature team, and you got to compete with maturity in the playoffs to lay down the number of wins that you need to get to where you want to get to. So this group has been really committed to that over the course of the year, and here we are. And now with everything in front of us to play for.
It's a group that it has a good mix. You have the veteran group, and you have youngsters like Edwin and Tucker and all these guys. Have you seen that group, the whole group sort of just gel, Jalen and all these guys?
Yeah, I was actually just walking off the field with one of the players and just saying that, when I have individual conversations, the amount of belief each player has in each other is at a different level than I've ever seen it since I've been here, right? The trust that they have in the next guy and the next guy and the next guy it's exciting, because they believe in each other, and they believe that when they're out there together, they can create some real problems. And I think our young guys have gotten better, have improved, have fit in the team, have started to really understand their roles and how they can impact the group. Adding Maya now being for another year has learned everybody. You add a guy like Marco in with experience who just brings another level of calm and experience. And then we have the young guys who, to me, have been really hungry to win and really hungry to get better. That's a great formula, and they're working together, and they trust each other, and they see how each other's abilities help them and help the team. And it's not like, this guy can't do this, but this guy contributes to what this big team picture is going to look like, and it's just been really, really positive in that way. And I think it's a group that is eager now to play these games that are meaningful. You want to be confident as you're going into that, and I sense that very much in this group.
I wanted to ask you about two players. What kind of evolution have you seen from Cerrillo this season?
Again, for Eddie, I think there's a lot of little things that he is just matured up on. We've been working with things for him, like getting to his supporting positions a little earlier, a little faster, organizing his body, organizing his solutions, understanding, again, about where the ball needs to go, how to balance a player like Ricky, how to balance, how to work with other guys in the midfield. That understanding and that appreciation of role, I think, is a big part of it for him, right? And he's really accepted that, like, hey, I'm the defensive midfielder. My job is to protect the center backs. My job is to protect us in transition, and my job is to get the guys who need the ball, get them the ball when they need the ball, where they need it. And while that, to me, isn't necessarily the player that everybody sees and it stands out to everybody, to me, it's what makes the team function, all right? And it functions smooth. And so I feel like he's really kind of embraced that on both sides of the ball. He's still learning. But he is a powerful, dynamic kid who can move with the ball, which is not always the case for a defensive midfielder. And he can move efficiently around the field and play in 1 and 2 touch, which is really a hallmark, I think, of a defensive midfielder, and get the guys the ball. And he is just continuing to grow, and he will. He'll continue to mature in his defensive reads, when to be aggressive, when to be a little more controlling. There's things like that I think he's still growing at, and he's made a lot of progress.
The other one is Garces, and I'm wondering what you see now and what it is you want to see maybe next year.
Well, we all see, I think, just his physical capabilities are off the charts. He's his aggressiveness in the one-on-one duel, his capacity to cover ground and make up certain ground in plays, to defend in transition, to defend in open field. It gives us sometimes the ability to be slightly more aggressive in the counter press because of his capacity to recover balls right away, or his ability to recover and deal with things. So I think you see just that individual defending piece that's there for him. He has the foundation to be really good. Where I think he's continuing to evolve is just in the relationship of the players in his group, how to shift maybe from one responsibility to another responsibility in the course of an action and not get locked in onto one particular responsibility. And then on our team, always the demands of having to have the ball and to build attacks sometimes from the back. It's just him continuing to get comfortable as to what his solutions are, what his reads are, and being comfortable in those situations. I think in games, he's always in each of these games, I think he has settled in each one better and better. And that's just kind of coming with experience. The first game, I thought he was a little tense and a little tight with some of those actions. And then I felt like during that game, he started to loosen up because he has the qualities to do it. Sometimes I think he just, early on, he was afraid a little bit to make a mistake. And now I feel like he's freed himself up, and now things are becoming a lot easier for him on that side. So he's going to continue to grow because the foundation of being a really good defender is there.
Yeah. Well, that aggressiveness has been so key, but there's also a risk to it.
Of course, yeah. That's the balance, right, that I'm talking about between when to be aggressive and when to change your priority in a moment where, okay, might be being aggressive, but instantly that read could be, well, I can't be aggressive in this moment. And so,
well, how important is Maya in that equation?
Sure. Yeah, very. I mean, obviously having a veteran who is a very good game reader and somebody who's very good at recognizing what's coming, can communicate, can also be a guy who's balancing based off of his reads. He understands Emmy's tendencies. He can balance some of those things off as well. Mickey, too, being another experienced guy on his right side. He's between two guys who have a lot of experience, and so they can balance and help him in the process as well. So I think it's been really good for Emmy. We knew, I said it, midway through the season, this is a player we need to get going, and it's going to be like a new signing if we can really get him going. And I think, now we have him, and we have Jalen, and we have, Maya, we have guys and Eric, and we have guys who I feel like we have a good balance of experience and youth, and guys who can complement each other when they're out there together.
And then as part of that, his time off, injury, and then at times going off with national teams, Jalen, in what ways did that maybe sidetrack him in terms of his evolution, and in what ways are you kind of trying to build that back up?
Yeah, for Jay, I think it's always like he's a really young center back who's been thrust into the spotlight in many ways, which isn't always easy for a defender. And Jay's still learning. He's learning as he's growing into himself, when to be physical, when to not be physical, but more the opposite of Emmy. He's learning how to use his body to be physical and when to be aggressive, whereas Emmy's tendency is to just be aggressive. Yeah. Jay's tendency is to read the play, be a little bit more calculated, but he needs to develop that kind of that nastiness of when to be aggressive and how to use his body. So they're kind of on opposite ends of their development, but I think very complementary to each other as well. And so I don't think it's derailed Jay. I think obviously we haven't had to rely on Jalen in this moment, which has allowed him also to take a step back, take a deep breath, work on a few things. He'll get his opportunity to step in there and bring his qualities back into the group as well. So, but I think it's really important that we have, 4 guys at the end of the season who can step in and give us a combination of experience and some youth and some legs in the back.
Anybody online or?
There are, but go ahead.
You got the word of Delgado being suspended. Were you surprised the league came back a couple of days after that?
Yeah, I mean, a little surprised after the fact. I mean, I thought maybe in the moment, I thought, oof, this could be 50-50. After the fact, I feel like the threshold has to be really high. And, I counter that to the tackle that was on Ricky that didn't get any supplemental suspension as well, which was for me, it was an act of intention to try to get after our guy. So to not act on one to give a further suspension, but to act on another to suspend somebody, that's where I had a little more of a hard time with it. But it is what it is, and we move on and we bounce. But I was when the play happened in the moment, I was a little concerned that this could go either way. But again, I feel like the threshold, once you don't call it in the play, especially with VAR to back you up and everything else there, I feel like the threshold has to be extremely high, and they found it that way. I don't know if I was exactly there. I also go back to the tackle that was on Ricky last year if you guys recall, in Austin, that ended up injuring Ricky's ankle, right? To me, that was a much worse tackle and injured the player versus the tackle. And so they're not always this tackle for that tackle, but I saw that one as retroactively a really bad tackle that from behind that goes over the ankle of the player. So that's where I thought, okay, maybe they won't, because I've seen this one not get. And so, anyways, that's what's going through my head, anyways, as that's happening.
It didn't surprise me. I thought it was a red card right from the start.
When you first see it, you think, okay, but then you watch as the game progressed, up till that point, it was nothing, no red card or issue or anything. So
yeah. Well, I felt like inside of the game, my opinion, and I'm obviously the coach of the Galaxy. For me, the amount of shots that Ricky was taking without the center going, okay, enough is enough already.
Yeah.
This guy, he had 9 fouls on him over the course of that game, and I've never once did we stop and go, okay, no more on this guy. That should happen at 3 or 4, especially when it's clearly a tactic.
Yeah.
So if you're going to let that go the entire game and then red card this particular situation, I don't disagree that you really have a case there. I just feel like the game was kind of allowed to get there because I feel like our player was targeted through large stretches of the game and never really was called out on that. Right?
Should have taken care of that as well.
Sure, and I think that kind of to me that brings the temperature down a little bit. For me, Markey's tackle was more of a clumsy, and he missed the opportunity to stop the transition in a less callous way, and then it became like, oh God, this guy's getting away from me, now I've got to do something, and it became more clumsy than like nasty. It wasn't a nasty talent. I just think it was just a poorly timed, bad decision. And that doesn't mean it shouldn't be a red card, but I don't think there was any intent behind it or anything that was behind it to try to I think he was just trying to get the guy to stop. That's all. So, but that doesn't necessarily go into the effect
and
of
in
the
that
decision.
part of the field, I'm not sure it was necessary.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but we emphasize a lot in our group to you don't really know where the attack is going to go until it goes there, and so especially at this time of year, it's like in the NBA, they say no layups, right? There's no layups. Well, we don't just allow this attack to happen and let's see where it goes and then talk about it later whether it should have ended there or not. Let's make sure that we are, but not in that particular way. Let's make sure we stay.
In the NBA? I thought it was all just three-point shooting now.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah,
but
a lot of guys get fined. You guys take up the collection?
Yeah, I didn't calculate that, but there was a few in there.
I thought Mikovic, people might collect money for Mikovic, because
he was a peacemaker. He said he went in as Switzerland. He was not. He was just trying to keep everything calm.
All right. Apologies, friends online. Our hotspot went out, but Scott asked a lot of questions, so I hope you got what you needed. But we'll go to Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, Scott was asking questions. We didn't miss anything. We're good.
You don't know what you missed,
Greg,
man.
Yeah. Greg, looking at that first place spot, and you guys have been in first place, I think, for 12 weeks or something like that over the course of the season. Would it be disappointing to fall to second place in the last game? Is it a priority to be in that first place spot?
Sure, it would be disappointing. I think we wouldn't be competitors if we fell out of that spot and felt like it was okay. So it's a priority. At this time of year, you want to be careful of not trying to do too many things on any one day, but we want to get guys ready for the playoffs. We want to keep guys healthy, but we also want to go win this game to give ourselves, the home court or home field sort of through as much of the playoffs as we can. So we just got to be mindful. That's where we sit around and all of our departments have to talk, okay, who's safe, ready to play. But we're going there to get a result, and try to solidify our position as first in the West, which, again, most importantly, I think it controls where these playoff games are played as long as you're in it. And
then when you look at the other side of the bracket, is there any thought at all about Columbus and where Columbus sits, and sort of if you guys finish above Columbus, should you guys go to an MLS Cup, you guys would host? Does that matter, or are we throwing that out for now?
I think we're mindful of it, and certainly a team like Columbus, if we're fortunate enough to play them, which would be in the finals, we would love that to be at home because we know the quality that they have, and especially in their place. But I think the first thing we've got to do is approach this game from minute 1 to minute 90 with the process of trying to try to win the game and set ourselves up and be ahead. And then as you get to the last 10, 15, whatever minutes, wherever that decision is made, are you pushing to win it? Or are you, I don't necessarily think with our group we need to over push to try to win a game. I think we create enough chances as it is. I don't think we need to try to do more things to create more chances. I think for us is to stay steady, play this game out, because for me, it's also about creating some clarity as to what you want to be as you go into the playoffs, not trying to do too many things on the last day that you're then cleaning up, next week before the playoffs actually start. So I think some of it is just consistency, mindful, play out the 90 minutes the way you need to play it out, and the result will be the result at the end of it.
Thanks, Greg.
Yep.
Rob, go ahead.
Hey, Greg, thanks so much for your time. Apologies if Scott asked this one while we got disconnected.
No problem.
But you're up for Coach of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What are you most proud of about the season? I mean, obviously the team has set various records, points totals, gotten over a bunch of mental hurdles. But you yourself, is there anything that you point to as this is the highlight of my year? Thank you.
Aren't there like 22 of us in the running right now? Or has it been narrowed down?
It hasn't been narrowed down yet.
Oh, okay. Anyways, I appreciate that. For me, it's about the team. We, as I said, a little bit earlier, when we started this season, it was about a commitment to a process. The process is all of us trying to get better through the course of the season. Me starting to understand the new players and how they're going to fit into our team, and to help this team shape into the best version of itself. And it's about the players' commitment every day to come in to try to make themselves and the group better too, every single day, and working together through that process. So I'm proud of the group because they've committed to it, and they've benefited from the process that has been the season, and they've benefited from each other, and what each of them brings to the table. My job is just to try to create an environment where this group can continue to grow and get better, where they trust each other out in the field, and they have a good understanding of who they are and how they're going to be successful. And so I any of these things that are Coach of the Year or whatever are really a product of your whole group, and that's and our staff and everybody that's around, because it's about keeping guys healthy. It's about keeping guys out on the field. There's so many things that you manage over a course of the season. It's certainly bigger than any one of us that are up for this role, and so, or this award. So I'm just proud of this group. We've got one more game that we've got to try to come back with the results so that we can win the West. And then really the fun stuff starts, because now we're in the playoffs, and this will be the moment where we really kind of see what our process plays out to give us here down the stretch. So I appreciate that. Just focused on the group and trying to help the group and each player get better.
Thanks, Greg. Good luck in Houston.
Thank you.
In regards to the group, as you were mentioning, what are some challenges you had to overcome, and how are you going to use that as we build into not only the Saturday's match but the playoffs?
Yeah, I think the challenges for us to overcome were nothing like the ones last year. So as a starting point, you're talking about injuries that you have over the course of the season. Obviously, we had Joe, who was down, and managing each guy's a little bit different. Joe was down for a little stretch. He's coming off of playing a European season and a long season, so trying to manage him through it. Ricky came into the season with an injury, a couple little things along the way. Martin now being out. There's always, Emmy had something which sort of, for me, slowed his process of adaptation. So you're always, all of us across the league we're managing some of these, the injuries and the things that can come over the course of the season. You want to minimize those as much as possible, and I think everybody in our staff, everyone has done a good job, and our players done a good job of trying to keep those things as much to a minimum. And when you do lose guys, it's about how can you adapt in those moments with the guys that you have. I think we lost them again. Outside of that, I think it's managing the schedule, because with us now, with we didn't have Open Cup this year, so that was one less thing we had to manage through. But for the last like 6-7 weeks, it's been a game or 2 or 3, and then you're off for 2 weeks, and then a game or 2, and then you're off for 2 weeks, and that doesn't provide a lot of consistency down the stretch in terms of rhythm and things like that. And so I think some of it's been just managing the calendar and managing the schedule, and guys who are away from national team and coming back and things like that. So I think those are the big things. And then within that, not to keep rambling, but each guy has their own personal life outside of here, and you're helping to manage those different situations as they happen, and that's just connecting with people. Forget the player side of it. It's just connecting with the people, the players as people, right? And helping them to manage the course of an entire year and all those kinds of things that come into that.
And in regards into people, specifically our cool fans, we're going to have a handful of them traveling this Saturday. But not only for the ones that are traveling this Saturday, but throughout the season that have showed the unconditional support. What message do you have for them?
Listen, we are where we are this year, and a large part of that is the energy that our fans have given us over the course of the season. From what seemed like the very start of this season, the new additions that came in, the welcoming of those, the excitement that came around that, the joy and the excitement of starting off with Miami and the event that was, and how our fans really showed up and were there. I think on that day, a new relationship, new version of a relationship was born, because I think people saw that this team could be really successful, and it was exciting. And we played a Miami team that was supposed to be miles above everybody else, and we should have come away with 3 points that day, right? And I think everybody realized that this team was for real, and it was going to be exciting, and that energy and that relationship has just grown throughout the year. Because ultimately, listen, to be a fan, you want to go and feel something that is exciting and it brings you joy and brings you pride, and I think there was a belief early on, and this group also reciprocated, showing that loyalty was deserved, that was going to be there, and now it's just played off. And that's why our record at home has been what it is at home, is because of the mutual energy that's back and forth between the players on the field and the fans that are in the stands. And that's special, because I always remember this place as being a fortress, and so hard to play when you came here, and that's something that we said is low-hanging fruit for us. We've got to get back to that, and if we can, we take points at home, we're gonna be in a positive direction.
Being a player in the past and now a coach, is there a different feeling from the positions, from like hearing the fans, or is it all the same?
It's a little similar, I would say. As a player, you're so immersed in the moment, whereas a coach, you do have moments through the course of the game where you kind of separate from that deep immersion in things, but not a lot. I have a tendency at home too, when I'm watching TV, that someone could be talking to me and I don't even hear them because I'm like so focused. I think it's a product of the job, but that's similar sometimes in games, where you're so locked in on a situation that everything around you just is not even there. But as a coach, sometimes you step away and you take in everything, and that's a little bit different than you can sometimes as a player. I know the players do for sure when we score goals and things like that, but certainly appreciating it is a little easier on the sideline. And it certainly this year has been amazing in some of our biggest moments, it's been really amazing too, but even in some of our challenging moments, it's been fantastic.